What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about the difference between Division I wide receivers and average wide receivers. So we're going to be talking about some of the key things that they're going to be looking for at that next level and the common mistakes that a lot of wide receivers make that don't separate them from the competition, okay? So I hope this video gives you guys some value. I hope it gives you some insight on what you should and should not do to play at the next level at the wide receiver position, okay? But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you want to get better above the neck, you want to improve your football IQ, you want to be able to diagnose defenses, know when to use certain moves based on the specific coverages, know when to sit in zone coverage, check out that very first link in the description. Today only on our website, we're having a 50% off sale on our How Wide Receivers Can Read Defenses program. So it's a 40-minute long video with all the specific things about reading defenses from a wide receiver perspective. So we talk about corners leverage, we talk about zone coverage, we talk about all the specific things you can do to be able to read coverages, diagnose defenses, to structure that into your plan. So very first link in the description, fellas. Hope you guys can take advantage of that sale. Let's get started. So first things first, we're going to be talking about press releases, okay? So let's watch this clip full speed here. So when we come off here, you see how this receiver is able to get a ton of separation. So the thing that separates guys, and if you're one of those guys that's going to make the excuse like, oh, well, the only difference is that they're a lot bigger, they're a lot faster, just stop watching the video. This video is not for you because that's just an excuse that you're making. If you are serious about playing at that next level, you look at the difference between some of these guys coming into college, out of high school, and some of the guys that don't make it to that level. There are a lot of key differences, right? Now, a lot of people are blessed with bigger size, faster, you know what I mean? But all that stuff can be beaten, right? All that stuff comes down to technique, because when you get to that Division I level, everybody's quick and everybody's fast. How are you going to actually separate yourself? So the main thing is off the line of scrimmage. When we come off here and I actually make this move, it's so important that you step outside of a DB's frame, right? Because that's what's going to make him move. So many guys, the mistake that they'll make, and this is why they get punked off the line every time they try to do something, is that they won't actually move their feet. Their feet will stay. You want to think of press releases as you got three lanes. You got the left lane, you got the middle lane, and then you got the far right lane. It's like driving, right? So you want to make sure that if I'm trying to run to the inside, I'm trying to run a slant, I want to threaten this DB to the right lane because that's the only way that he's going to move. There comes a point in every single release, every single time off the line, that a DB has to turn his hips and run. So am I going to force him to do that? Am I actually going to make him commit? And how we make him commit is if I'm going to work this double up where I go in, then I throw back out, I actually got to step outside of his frame. Now, a lot of people will say that this is too wide, right? A lot of people say that, oh, he's stepping too wide, he's reaching. Not if you bring your upper half. If you step super wide and your hips and shoulders stay in that middle lane, yeah, you're not going to have any explosion. But when you actually throw with your upper half and you actually bring your hip with this cut, that's what's going to keep you in that explosive balance position where you could actually drive and push out. Now, what an average wide receiver will do in this case is their feet will just be choppy and they'll just stay inside the DB's frame because they feel that, oh, I got to just be quick with my feet. No, you actually got to sell with your feet. You actually got to step here. You got to threaten him here. So that's where I need to go, and that's how I'm going to get the most separation possible. So that's the first key difference. So a lot of Division I wide receivers, the main thing that they do is they're comfortable with moving. They're comfortable with actually, I call it throwing the hip. They're comfortable with throwing their hip into a cut and actually getting this DB to move off that platform. A lot of guys are not. A lot of average receivers are not. Whether they have real tight hips and they can't move, which comes down to you guys got to be able to stretch. You should be constantly stretching every single night to loosen up your hips, loosen up your groin, so these cuts become a lot easier. Or they just feel like, oh, I could just give them a quick little shake off the line and go. It's about being a salesman. It's not about having the quickest feet in the world. Yeah, that helps, but it's about being a salesman. Division I wide receivers know how to sell specifically on their routes. And if you're a guy who's undersized and you're like, oh, well, they're just bigger than me, these receivers are just bigger than me, that's the only reason why they get the advantage and they get all these big schools, why don't you just change your mindset a little bit and actually focus on technique, doing the little things, doing the details to maybe you actually stand out. Maybe you don't go to Division I school right away, but you're such a great route runner that maybe you go to a JUCO or a lower level, then you're able to actually transfer because you can stand out on film and do the things that they're going to ask you to do, right? Instead of just making that lame excuse that, oh, this guy's 6'5", that's the only reason why he's better than me. Yeah, 100% that helps. For sure that helps. They pass that eye test, but that's not the only way to get there, right? Let's watch the thing again full speed one more time. Great job emphasizing how to step outside of DB's frame and then being able to accelerate. So the second thing that receivers got to do, and this is kind of what we were talking about today with reading coverages of wide receivers, they got to have that high football IQ, right? So you got to understand how to attack leverage and the reason why DBs are playing a certain way. So many guys make this mistake at the lower levels of football because they haven't been taught this, right? You got to understand this concept. So we're looking at an out route here, a 10-yard out from Chase Claypool. This is a route they're going to ask you to run, especially at the collegiate level. So you see what he does, how he squares up this DB, threatens him to the inside, and then is able to accelerate, right? So now let's talk about this. Why is this guy inside shade? This is something that you got to understand if you want to play football at that next level. He's inside shade because he wants to protect where? He wants to protect this inside. His help is the sideline. So he's hoping, and this is what a lot of guys who are average wide receivers will do. They don't end up attacking this guy's leverage. What they'll do is they'll just think, oh, I got all this space to work. I'm just going to run straight and run an out route. But this DB is going to be right on your hip, and he's going to force you straight towards this sideline, and he's going to wall you completely off, and the quarterback's going to have no space to throw. So what a Division I wide receiver is going to actually do is square up this DB, attack his leverage, attack that midline, because this DB's taught to do what? Keep his leverage to the inside. This DB ends up backpedaling. Hey, even better, right? Even better for a receiver. This DB didn't play correctly. What he's going to be taught to do is he's going to keep his leverage to the inside. As soon as we square him up, he's going to keep that leverage, and they call it weaving. He's going to weave to the inside because he does not want to give up the inside. If Claypool wanted to run a post right here, he could, and he'd be wide ass open because of how poorly this DB played it. However, the thing is that when a DB does play this thing correctly, that's what he's going to be doing. But you want to attack his leverage because we got to be on the same page as my quarterback. That's what a lot of Division I guys are at. They're on the same page as their quarterback. They understand timing. They're not doing all the fancy stuff. They know that this quarterback needs some space to be able to make this throw because he's got to throw you open, right? So I attack his leverage because I'm trying to give my quarterback space. I'm trying to give him that space where he hits that third step on the throw. He could put it at a spot. I know I've taken care of him with my stem, and then I can make this move and actually accelerate back to that ball. That ball's thrown a little bit late against Senior Bowl, and maybe don't have the best timing with this quarterback, but that's what we got to be able to do. If you want to stand out and you want to take your receiver skills to that next level, you got to understand the concepts of off man. You got to understand the concepts of press coverage. You got to understand what a DB is trying to accomplish in zone. You got to know your opponent better than they know themselves, right? So that's one of the main keys separates Division I guys from average wide receivers is the fact that these guys, Division I guys, know what to do. They know the reason why behind certain things. That's what I want you guys to take away from this. Know the reason why and know how to attack specific coverages and specific defensive looks. Watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job attacking leverage, squaring them up, and then working that rocker step at the top of the break. Okay, so now, last thing we're going to be talking about here is just being able to sell routes and being able to have smooth cuts. Okay, so this is one of the things that so many guys struggle with, but you see it commonly at that Division I level that guys don't necessarily struggle as much with this, and it's smooth route running. You talk about this all the time, like Nick Saban, one of my favorite interviews with him, is he's talking about what he looks for in wide receivers, and again, that's like wide receiver U, that's Alabama, right? He looks for smoothness in and out of cuts. He looks for how smooth can you get into a break, how smooth can you get out and actually accelerate, right? And again, perfect example, Devontae Smith ain't the biggest guy in the world, right? But he fits that criteria. So that's what we're going to be focusing on here. So we're looking at this sluggo route. So when he comes off here and he breaks to that slant, I want you to notice how in stride he is, right? He doesn't chop his steps. This is what so many people do, and it's not even necessarily on a double move. Even when guys just run a straight up post, straight up corner, straight up out route, dig route, whatever it is, they'll start to chop their steps right before the break. They'll start to prepare for the break. I don't want you to prepare for the break. I want you to react. It should be off of steps. It should be strategic. So when he's coming off of here and he's running a sluggo route, right? When you go 3 steps, any double move, whether it's a post corner, out and up, whatever it is, whether it's maybe it's just like a curl and then go, whatever the route is, whatever it is before that, you got to make sure that you're in stride because your stride and your speed is what's going to sell this route next to your eyes and your hips and your shoulders, right? So when I'm doing this sluggo route, it's so important that I give my eyes to the quarterback, but I got to commit my shoulders and I got to commit my hips on this 45-degree angle break because that's what's going to get him to drive. But if my steps are super choppy, I ain't going to drive on that if I'm a DB because nobody runs a slant route half stride. But you guys are preparing for the break and you're giving an indicator, which is going to make this DB drop back, sit there, and just be able to sit right on this route. So you actually got to make sure that when I come off this, I'm in full stride. It's a 1, 2, 3. There's no change to his stride length, and that cut is just nice and sudden and right in stride. Same principle applies if I'm just doing a 10-yard out, post, like I was saying, you're doing a corner, whatever. I got to stay in stride because that makes the DB think either the first portion of the route or that makes the DB think vertical when we're actually selling just the stem, okay? So that's the third thing. That's the key difference is that Division I wide receivers are smooth in and out of breaks. They know how to cut in stride. They know how to actually push vertical rather than guys who are maybe at that lower level. They're a little bit more average receivers, love to make those quick choppy steps because it's a lot, it's a lot easier to break that way when you're not in stride, but that's the difference, that right there. That's the difference when it comes to your breaks and route running. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job selling this slant, actually staying in stride and actually using his speed to sell the route. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. I always appreciate the feedback. Helps me come up with new ideas for videos. So again, I always appreciate it. And also, fellas, how wide receivers can read defenses, 50% off today only. It's a full 30 to 40 minute long video, fellas, where we break down all the specific things that wide wide receivers need to know football IQ-wise, above the neck, how to structure releases, moves at the top of the route, and defensive looks that you guys can understand from a wide receiver perspective, not a quarterback's perspective, from a wide receiver perspective. Very first link in the description, fellas. Hope you can check that out. I'll see you guys next time.